Hello and welcome to the last module of the DREAM program. In Module 1, we got familiar with the benefits of dialogic reading for promoting language and early literacy development, and learned about the peer sequence for prompting interaction and engagement while reading with your child. In Module 2, we learned the crowd mnemonic to identify 5 different ways we can prompt our child to engage, and dug a little deeper into the levels of crowd prompts to identify how different crowd prompts are useful for working on different skills. In this lesson and throughout Module 3, we are going to talk a little more about more complex Level 2 and Level 3 crowd prompts. However, first, let's review Level 1 crowd prompts, the completion prompts and the simple WH questions. Just to refresh your memory, completion prompts are leaving a blank at the end of a sentence and getting the child to fill it in, while the simple WH questions are the who, what, and where questions that are used to target new vocabulary and get the child talking and engaged. These types of questions can serve as the foundation or first level before moving on to Level 2 and Level 3 prompts, especially if the child is unfamiliar with what the books are talking about, or if the child is not used to speaking out during shared book reading. Now, let's talk about Level 2 crowd prompts. Once a child is familiar with a book topic or is comfortable with some of the important story vocabulary, they are better prepared for Level 2 crowd prompts. Level 2 crowd prompts are really the sweet spot of dialogic reading because they get the child using longer and more complex language during shared book reading, which is one of the core goals of dialogic reading. Level 2 prompts are questions that often cannot be answered in one word, and for that reason they get children thinking a little harder about details in the story. As a result, research shows that adults asking children Level 2 prompts promotes oral language development and other key skills. So, what are the specific Level 2 prompts? Well, the two Level 2 prompts are similar and overlap in some ways. The first is O, open-ended questions. These are questions that can't be answered in one word and may sometimes be difficult enough to get your child to ask you a question back, thus creating a rich conversation about the story. These open-ended questions may also include some more complex WH questions like why. Let's look at some specific examples. One of the most common and easiest ways to provide an open-ended prompt is to say, "Tell me more about this picture." This prompt allows children to share any number of things that can then be expanded upon in the following steps of peer. Some other examples include asking things like, "Why do you think the boy is feeling that way?" or predicting, "How do you think the story will end?" Those examples lead us into the second type of Level 2, prompt, complex WH questions. These include questions such as why and how, and really aim to move beyond the simple labeling of objects and actions that are the focus of simple WH questions like, "Who is that?" and "What is this?" Instead, complex WH questions differ because when we ask complex WH questions, they do not have a simple answer that can be provided in a word or two. Some examples include asking, "Why did the boy run away?" and "How did he become a butterfly again?" These prompts get children talking using some longer sentences, which can then be evaluated and expanded upon to provide children with some great models of correct and complex language. Now let's move on to Level 3 prompts. It is important to know that Level 3 prompts build upon the foundation of Levels 1 and 2. Their vocabulary and language use to target specific story comprehension features and relate the story to their own lives. These are harder questions that you can use if you feel your child is ready and can be used to build knowledge of specific story or text elements. Also, Level 3 crowd prompts allow children to practice using vocabulary and language in a variety of contexts, working to get children to use more complex language not only when they read with you, but also in their daily lives. The first Level 3 prompts are recall prompts. These are questions that ask the child to recall something they read about earlier in the story. These can be used once a child is familiar with a story and can be asked about any number of story features such as the plot, characters, and the characters' motivations. For example, you could ask, "Can you tell me what happened to the little blue engine in the story?" Or what happened to the boy? Or what is the first thing that the girl saw? Or who was it that found the magic key? The final level 3 prompts are distancing prompts. These prompts get children to relate what is happening in the book to their own lives, thus bridging a gap between the book and the real world. They also get children to potentially use some of the book's vocabulary in their own stories and promote their ability to tell stories. Some examples include asking things like, "Remember when we went to the animal park last week? Which of these animals did we see there?" Or saying, "How did we celebrate your birthday last year?" And that is the final of our 5 crowd prompts. You are now familiar with peer, a sequence that can help build your child's language during shared book reading as well as crowd. Several different ways to prompt your child depending on their abilities, the book, and what you think they need. So before we go, let's review some overall dialogic reading principles. Remember, our main goal is not just reading the words of the book, but instead our focus to get kids involved as storytellers, and then to expand on what they are saying through some good models. Also, it is important to note that you should use the language with which you are most comfortable, and use the prompts you think work best for your child based on their age, familiarity with the book, and their interests. It will get easier to implement dialogic reading as you read a book multiple times. For example, you can first ask some simple questions to teach them some new words, then ask some open-ended questions to get them talking a little more, and then later ask some comprehension and distancing questions if you feel they are ready for it. Do not feel like you have to stay in any one level, but instead try a range of questions. At the end of the day, you are the expert on your child. Use the questions you feel work best. This concludes the final lesson of the DREAM program. The remainder of the module will focus on supporting your use of Level 2 and Level 3 crowd prompts. The creators of the DREAM program would like to thank you for your time and attention over the past 3 lessons. After completing the remainder of this model, you will be ready to promote your child's language and early literacy skills and prepare them for success in reading and school.